Good evening. This is Nice Guy Eddie. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion on Rainbow Radio. Got a great show for you tonight. First up, Jonah Barton is on to talk about a project that they are doing. This is sort of an updated It Gets Better project, looking for some coming out stories. They're going to tell us all about that. Sometimes we need these reminders that the world is getting slightly better when what qualifies as a victory for civil rights in the Supreme Court is them simply refusing to rule on a case that would grant businesses license to discriminate. I would have preferred a decisive striking down or decision on the matter, but refusing to hear the case, I guess, is what counts as progress now in this scary new world. Speaking of scary new world, of course, speaking of the scary world, there are still civil rights violations going on left and right. And Skarrlett Krow, who you might remember from back in February, we had her on, the convicted Nazi puncher, my hero. She will be back on to talk about some civil rights violations that she experienced at the hands of the police in her community. But first up, Jonah Barton is here to tell us about a project that they are putting together. Jonah, welcome to the program.
Thank you. So yeah, basically I wanted to do it for Pride Month, but I'm a little late. Just, life issues. But I came up with this idea. I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was like, I really want to do something to give back to my community. And I was like, he was giving me ideas, and I thought for a second. I was like, I could do some coming out stories, because a lot of people want to see that kind of thing. They want to feel like it's a safe space. They need that kind of reassurance that it's okay, And it doesn't have to be just for Pride Month. I wanted to expand it beyond Pride Month to show that it's okay to be prideful, not just during Pride Month.
Right.
I wanted it to be like this big, project. I kind of got sidetracked there for a minute, but I'm trying to get back on track now.
Right. So, what's the big vision? What are you looking at doing in the end? And what's the ask? What are you looking for from folks?
Well, I made a Facebook page, and I want it to be sort of, I want more community leaders. I want leaders in this community, for younger people, for people that might be scared, for people that it could be dangerous, but they still want to be part of it. So I want it to be, I want some leaders in here.
Is this like a refresh, modernization, maybe of like the, I think now somewhat problematic It Gets Better project kind of a thing?
Yeah, basically.
Got it. And you're looking for folks across LGBTQ, IA, ABC,
all
plus...
over, any age, any gender identity, sexuality, anything they want to identify as, or anything that they feel that they are. I want them to come forward and be like, hey, this is my story. This is, what I've gone through to get to this point. And my own story, it's not that interesting. My life story is a little interesting, but my figuring myself out, it's, basic. Oh, I am this. No, I am this. Okay, I figured it out. That's great.
2 steps. That's not bad. It takes some people more than 2 stops to find that right label, that right community, that right group to fit into.
It took me a while to figure out that I was non-binary, but after I figured it out, I pretty well stuck with it instead of changing every 5 minutes like I was when I was 16.
Right. And that's an important point too, because when people think about coming out stories, of course, gay and trans, that's the most common. That is the most, that's the one that a lot of people hear. But I mean, again, it's a broad community. It's a diverse community. And especially you mentioned non-binary, and it wasn't that long ago that wasn't taken very seriously. That wasn't really even recognized. I mean, it's still argued to this day.
But it does fall under that trans umbrella. So I do proudly call myself trans. So, hey, I'm trans, oh, what are you too? Oh, I'm non-binary, it's a comforting feeling to know that I can be out here and just be open about what I am. Of course, I actually had an incident recently where my husband's old boss was being very rude about it, but I don't worry about that kind of thing anymore because I know what I am,
Right.
I know it's not that easy for some people. So that's what I'm doing with this project is I want to, like I said, I want to give a safe space, and I want people to know that even though there are people out there that they don't understand, I want them to know that there are people that do understand and that it is okay.
Do you want to, well, I guess no, there's no point in you giving it to me if it's going to end up in your project, but I mean, do you want to tell more about your personal story then, or about your coming out, or a bit about that process? Because
there's quite a bit to it. I came out when I was 12, so my family is bisexual, my parents, and they were like, oh, well, you're just bi-curious. You don't know what that is. And I went through my whole life just like, whatever. They think it's a phase, but it's not. So I went through that. I grew up, and until I was about 17, I was living with my mom. And then I was in a group home for a while, but that's neither here nor there. And then I moved in with my grandparents, and they didn't understand it at all. My grandma was like, you want to kiss girls? And I'm like, yeah, girls are great. Like,
girls are great. Come on.
Girls are great.
Absolutely.
And then I met my husband through a Facebook group, actually. A lot of people are probably in it, Forbidden Snacks. It's a great group. So I met him. We were talking online for about 6 months. And then he came out to visit me when I was living with my dad. And my dad is not a great person, but that's also neither here nor there. And he saw
common story, though.
Yeah. Well, he brought me out here to Arizona from Georgia, and I've met nothing but incredibly supportive people of me and my identity. They refer to me as how I want to be referred to as, and it's probably the best feeling I've had in a very long time.
Yeah.
I came out to my mom as trans when I was 16, and she's like, well, you're always going to be my little girl, and, never did anything but that.
Right.
And I haven't had supportive people in my life until now. I'm almost 21, and I'm just now finding supportive people that aren't just online people.
Right. And that's just it, is people do need those folks in real life. I mean, online is important. It's an important starting point for a lot of folks reaching out, especially if you're coming from a more conservative rural area. Typically that tends to be a lot tougher. You mentioned Georgia. I'm going to guess this wasn't Atlanta. So.
Most of my life, no. I was born and raised Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. And there are areas like that where it's a lot harder. So I mean, yeah, online is important, but you definitely need folks in real life. So.
And I definitely have in some pretty scary places for LGBTQ people. I get told all the time, I'm in this place and I can't do this because I'll be killed, and it's terrible. Why do we live in such a world like that? I don't understand it.
No. And this is going to end up on, is this ultimately like a Facebook community? Will this be like a YouTube channel? How will this kind of play out in the long run?
Well, I'm trying to expand it beyond just Facebook or YouTube. I'm trying TikTok. I'm going to try Snapchat, Tumblr. I'm trying everything.
Right.
So it's not just a one social media platform and done kind of thing.
Right.
But anybody can send that anywhere.
Yeah. So what is the ask? What are you looking for folks to send your way?
Basically, I just want a 1 to 3 minute video of their coming out story, or if they can't provide a video or don't want to, just a short 1 or 2 paragraph coming out story as well. It can be anonymous or non-anonymous. I have that option as well for people that, they want to share their story, but they want to, stay safe.
Right. And that's an important thing too when it comes to coming out. I mean, it's not everywhere is equally safe as everywhere else. So yeah, this kind of a thing really does give people an encouragement to kind of stay at it and keep going forward. And where should people send these?
I have my Facebook Messenger, which is a great place to send these kind of things. Jonah Barton is the name of the Facebook. I also have my Snapchat, which my name's a little weird, but it's Wonka Stash, like Willy Wonka and then mustache. Long story.
It's not a mustache, it's a Wonka stash.
Yeah, exactly. I also have my Instagram, which is the same as my Snapchat. And I do have an email. I haven't quite set it up yet, but I will definitely get that set up soon. I'll send that your way so you can get it out there too.
Awesome.
Eddie here. That email is jbartonpride2021@gmail.com.
Well, hey, best of luck. And folks, send videos, written notes, send them over to Jonah Barton and help them build this online community and hopefully expand this beyond that and get these messages out to folks that need to hear it.
Yeah, that's basically it. Just an easy little project.
Cool. Well, best of luck. And thanks for coming on and tell us about it. And we'll see if we can't get people sending something your way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So once again, folks, if you're interested in participating in that project, please send your 1 to 3 minute videos or 2 paragraph coming out stories to jbartonpride2021@gmail.com, to Jonah Barton on Facebook, or to the Snapchat address Wonka Stash. This is a good, I'm encouraged to see folks, more and more folks doing stuff like this. I do hope that you guys will give them a look and send them some of your stories. Building communities like this is so important. And again, having that strong community, having those people around you, having those folks that support you are not just better in your life, but it also helps to send the message to everyone else. I've said before that it's a weird example or a weird metric of social progress that capitalism seems to be on our side now, that suddenly the for-profit corporations are all putting their pride flags out and throwing the rainbow logo on everything that they can. And you know what, you can wax cynical about that, and you're right to do so, but what it tells me is it tells me that the bean counters have looked out at the society and have realized we're winning. And that is a good feeling. Even if it is a cynical ploy to get a little bit more of your money into their pockets, it is nice to know that they recognize where society is going, because that tells me that that is, in fact, where society is going. And that will have broader implications for people's acceptance everywhere, for your mental health, for families, for jobs, economic opportunities, all of the things that people have struggled with for so long. It is a sign that these things are, in fact, going to get better. Hey, what do you know? It gets better. But in the meantime, there are still those out there who want to harass, want to attack. This is generally coming from the right, of course. The surveillance state, the police state that we still live with in a lot of U.S. cities and a lot of states in this country. Cops are not necessarily interested in protecting civil rights. They talk about freedom, but of course, a lot of times this is not a freedom in a principled or constitutional sense.
So joining us again to talk about this very thing is Skarrlett Krow. Skarrlett, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me once again, Eddie.
So you just can't stay out of trouble, can you?
Apparently not.
So this is crazy. What happened here?
So I guess we should start with the actual day that the incident occurred, which was June 2nd of 2020.
Okay.
And there was a local peaceful Black Lives Matter protest that was going on in honor of George Floyd, because this was, very shortly after he was murdered by Derek Chauvin.
Right.
Convicted murderer that he is.
Now, this is long before. This was when the trial was still going on, right? This wasn't.
Yeah, I think this was before
recent.
the trial even started.
Okay. So we're back in June, and this was one of the 93% of BLM protests that was in fact peaceful.
Yeah,
93%. That's what Time Magazine came up with, and they know more than the average jack off on the internet. So I'm going to go with 93%. Okay, so
yeah.
Continue.
And I just, I showed up to provide strength in numbers, and I brought my Antifa flag that is rainbow striped, and inside the logo where it says anti-fascist action, you know how it normally has the two flags on it.
Right.
The one in front was designed to have the trans pride flag in it. So it was a rainbow and trans pride anti-fascist action.
So it was
flag.
like the background was rainbow, and then the flag was a trans pride flag. Is that how it goes?
Yeah. Give me just a second.
Let me see it. I want to see this.
Yeah, totally. Just give me a quick second to go grab it.
No worries. Oh, wow. That is sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, folks, it's basically it's the rainbow pride flag, but it's got the Antifa logo in front. And then, as she said, one of the flags is the trans pride flag. Damn, that is sweet looking.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Way to show your membership in that organization.
Membership? Organization? What? I feel like I need to clarify that, anti-fascism is not an organization. There's no membership.
Right.
It's not a club. I have no affiliation with Rose City Antifa or any Antifa group, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And, I'm just anti-fascist. It's, it's a, for lack of a better term, a belief system.
Yes.
Yeah. And to
anyone who's going to roll their eyes, let's be clear. I know who founded BLM. I can look it up. They have a name. And in fact, a history and whatnot. If I want to write $100 check to BLM and donate to their cause, I know where to send it, and I can deduct it from my taxes. Where would I send $100 to support Antifa? Skarrlett Krow in Portland. No. Yeah, it's not an organization. So anyway, you're at the BLM. You've got that very awesome pride flag there.
Thank you. Yeah. I've brought it to many events, especially also Pride. And yeah, so I had it with me. I had it on my, on my little makeshift flagpole that is basically like a rake handle, like just without an actual rake head. It was gotten from a hardware store, and I put some little like grommets in it so I could, basically like a rake handle or shovel handle, something like that. It's just, it's a wooden stick with a little tapered end that you can, attach a rake head or a shovel head to. It's
Right.
It's a spare part that I got from a hardware store. And I got some little screws with some little holes, and whenever I go out with the flag for a demonstration or a photo shoot or something like that, I use pipe cleaners to tie the flag to the makeshift pole.
So contrary to what the Republicans want to believe, not everybody just has zip ties lying around their house then.
Right? Yeah, no.
Crazy, right?
And the detective for the Forest Grove Police Department apparently snapped a picture of me and then ran it through the facial recognition program. And I had no idea about this until just a couple of days ago when I stumbled on a local news article that was published that day, and it was posted in a few of the Forest Grove community Facebook groups. And I read through the article, and I looked and saw the description that they had, and was like, "Oh shit, that's me."
Right. So they didn't post your picture.
No.
Okay. So that's something.
Oh,
wow,
it's okay.
yeah.
I'm going full on mask off. I don't give a fuck, especially when it came, especially, I've already made myself known through, punching of Lilith, Anton, Draken, Sayer.
We should do a thing about that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I've already got a record. So, there's, for me, there's no point in hiding anymore. Right. And also, like, I'm not ashamed.
And by the way, let's be clear in the context here, because this interview is happening kind of at the tail end. If someone's listening to this for a year from now, this is kind of at the tail end of the COVID pandemic. Let's hope it is. So when you're talking about mask off, you're not talking about COVID masking. You're talking about Antifa masking, which was something they were doing long before the pandemic for the purpose of evading exactly this kind of civil rights violation. And that's what it is. It is absolutely a civil rights violation. We'll get to that in a moment, but please continue.
Oh, yeah. So it was published by the Portland Tribune, which is through Pamplin Media. Right. And Pamplin also is affiliated with the Forest Grove News-Times and the local, which they're also related to Coin 6. Coin News Channel 6, KOIN are their call letters. And that article was later published through Coin 6's website,
and that eventually made its way to, you said, Facebook, which is where you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it in one of my local Forest Grove community Facebook groups, and read through the article, realized that I was the person that was being referenced in the article about the detective misusing the facial recognition program.
Right.
And found out that as a result, because I had not committed a crime, the not since, punching Draken.
Well, and that was a misdemeanor, and that was a settlement. That's a closed issue.
Yeah. That was, that was almost 2 years after that happened. So, yeah. And, I've stayed out of trouble. I've kept my nose clean. And yeah. Apparently also I found out in that article that the Oregon chapter of the ACLU was notified about this. And yeah, I would not have known if it weren't for that article being published just a couple days ago. And so now I am in touch with the reporter who wrote that article and, giving my feedback and, allowing myself to speak out on this openly.
Right.
And I just don't give a shit about trying to conceal myself, because I already fucking outed myself when I caught that misdemeanor assault charge for punching the Nazi Draken Sayer.
Right.
So yeah. And maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I'm just bold.
Not mutually exclusive. Has the ACLU reached out? Have you been in contact with
Not
them?
yet. However, I did leave a voicemail message with them, and in their voicemail thing, they said, it could take weeks, before getting a response.
Right.
And I left a message. I left my name, spelled it out, and gave them my cell number, and told them that I am the person that was subjected to the unlawful facial recognition incident, and would like to know if there is any kind of legal action that I can take moving forward, because I will if I can.
Right, absolutely. And to so that people understand the abuse of power here, we're talking about they have their digitized databases of mugshots and wanted posters and everything else. They snap a picture of you, they run it through the system. And this is, I mean, somebody might be hearing this and saying, well, that's a potentially an effective crime fighting tool. But here's the thing. I'm guessing it's the what's the search and seizure? Fifth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment.
Eddie here, just to satisfy all you constitutional scholars out there. Obviously, that is a Fourth Amendment violation.
Right? This is a Fifth Amendment violation, more or less. I'll edit that and fix that if I got that wrong. Because you were not doing anything. They can't just go around snapping everybody's pictures and running it through their databases. If they pick somebody up, they have they have a reason to do something, etc. You were at a lawful protest, not breaking a law. And as I understand it, hence my joke at the beginning of this interview, the detectives seem to think that suspected Antifa member was a sufficient crime.
Yeah. Apparently, I need to pull up the article again, but literally the reason for suspicion was apparently just written as suspicion. Like,
you are very suspicious, to be fair. Nobody can see the rude gesture she's making to me at the moment. But no, I mean, and that's just it, folks, is you have to have a reason to search a car, a house, a person. And granted, yes, this has been abused time and time again, but it has to stop somewhere. We can't just say suspicion. Well, I had suspicion. And fear is why they can shoot people with impunity. We can't just say suspicion and fear is reasons to violate people's rights or abuse their power. Their power is given to them by us. It has to be limited by us, and our rights, our power has to be respected. And you weren't doing anything.
Exactly.
There wasn't cause for an arrest. Now, because you've had past issues with this department and whatnot related to the assault, but you also mentioned something about police officers lurking around your place of residence. What is going on with that? Because that sounds
yeah. So I've noticed over the past several months that Forest Grove police vehicles have been parking out in front of my house, either literally just on the other side of the fence that marks the property border or directly across the street. When there is an empty lot, right next door that if they really needed to park to, like take a breather, or write down their notes or whatever, they could do that. But they've been deliberately choosing to park in front of my house. And I ended up making a stink about it on Facebook about a month ago, basically saying, dear Forest Grove Police Department, stay the fuck away from my house. And you are not welcome here without a warrant, and good luck with getting one. And I feel like I should read that out loud. Let me.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
All right. So, yeah, April 4th was when I posted this in the Forest Grove Community Political Discussion group. And it says, Dear Forest Grove Police Department, stay the fuck away from my house without a warrant, and good luck with getting one. I know why you constantly and consistently choose to park and idle directly in front of the property lines that I live within. You see my big gay transgender Antifa flags used as window curtains, and you already know me by name because your boys in blue arrested me after I blabbed about bashing one of your badge bunny cop sucker friends who is a confessed Nazi and confirmed child predator who was caught running around in the Capitol long after I dealt my damage, and we're still waiting for your comrades in Portland and the FBI to get her like it was so easy for you to do to me. It's no news to me that small town beat cops are left bored out of their minds, what with the whole COVID quarantine still going on and the slow stage release of the vaccine is keeping all of the hoodlums like me hunkered down in our homes so you can't bust us for looking the wrong way in your hunting grounds. The fact that I literally wear my identity and politics tattooed on my sleeves loudly and openly for everyone to see is an affront to the same department still currently employing an officer who was rightfully arrested, charged, and processed for, and I think I got the charges wrong in this, but unlawful trespassing, destruction of private property, and harassment of a family for having a Black Lives Matter sign in their front yard. How dare the citizenry hold you accountable, right? Your officers seem so obsessed with what happens in my house, so let me tell you to help ease your minds and get you off my back. I cook and clean up the kitchen. I take medications, showers, and shits in the bathroom that I also keep clean. I smoke cigarettes and vape THC outside in my yard and on the driveway. I do yard work, all of it on the 3rd-acre land of lot that I live in. Upstairs in the finished attic is where I mostly dwell, where I sleep, study, and work on my artistic and educational projects at a glacial speed to be sure of the quality of my labor of love. I play music indoors at inaudible volume from the outside, and when I do play music outside, it remains within the limits of all recognized legal ordinances. I dance, I exercise, I keep contact with my friends online, and when I'm all alone by myself, when nobody else is around and far hidden from innocent eyes, I walk around the house naked and furiously masturbate to transgender S&M, interracial gangbang pornography, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. Now stay the fuck away from my house. Ka-fucking peace, you fascist pigs. Deloy Polizei, thank you for nothing. Good luck and get fucked. I yield my time.
I think that deserves a slow clap. Damn. And the response was? So
yeah.
Now, I mean, this has been going on. Are you still sensing their their presence out there? Are you? I mean,
oh yeah, they just tried that shit again yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I was able to get photos of the car across the street, but in front of my house, and it was just serendipitous timing because I had just finished mowing the area in front of the fence around the mailboxes with a sling blade, and I had accidentally left my phone outside at the edge of the driveway. And so as I was running outside to go grab my phone, a Forest Grove police vehicle was starting to park in that same spot, and I was able to get a picture of them real quick. And I just stood and leaned against the fence and just stared them down while smiling. And immediately, dude turned around and then ended up parking about a block away. And he ended up staying put in that spot long enough for me to grab the camera extension mod that I have for my phone that has a 10 times optical zoom, and was able to get the license plate number. And I posted that to my social media.
And you'll have a small collection of these at some point, I would assume, if you can, like you say, serendipitous timing, but still.
Yeah. I really should have started doing this, as soon as I started noticing them doing this, months ago. But, yesterday was the first time I was able to, move forward and take that type of action.
Yeah.
And yeah, the last interaction that I had prior to then was either late March or early April, something like that. And it was a weekend night, and there were parties going on because I live close to a college campus. And the Forest Grove police decided to pull someone over directly in front of my house, apparently for having, a broken tail light or something like that. And so I stood outside and I started playing a modern remix of the piece of music, the Yiddish Charleston, and was singing Deloy, Deloy, Deloy Polizei, Deloy, Deloy, Deloy Polizei, which is Yiddish for fuck the police. And then also, said it in English, fuck the police and the 502. And anyway, they had finished, with whoever they were pulling over, and they were staying there. And, me being me, when the officer tried to strike up small talk with me and ask me how's it going, I just simply replied, "State your business." and he ended up going, "State your business," and like scoffed and laughed. And then he stayed outside for a while, and eventually he left. And my phone was on the verge of dying, so I had to capture video from indoors with my phone plugged in. And eventually he left, and I had posted it to my Facebook story, as it's called. And I have the highlights of when I was singing Deloy Polizei to the Yiddish Charleston and fuck the police. They're in my highlighted areas on my Facebook timeline.
Now, there might be some people listening to this and thinking, oh my God, you're really going out of your way to invite all of this harassment. Let's acknowledge a couple of things, though. First of all, police departments in most major cities do not have a great record with the transgender community, particularly not with particularly vocal and public transgender activists in general, but particularly with this community. You are not the first person, far from the first person I've had on the show that has had issues with essentially what is down to police harassment, which is targeting, which is intimidation, etc. And again, to a guy that say, well, like I was just starting up small talk. If a member of that force is unaware of that reputation, they're not really going to be able to mend that with small talk. They have to have some sense of what has happened. They have to have some sense of history, and that there's some sense that there's going to be people that you can't reach because of that history. And I don't think that's particularly wrong. I mean, again, you look at the Black community, same story. There's some bridges you're just not going to, and you're certainly not going to get it with small talk after somebody has cursed you out for parking your car in front of their house one too many times.
Oh yeah, I think the post that I made where I was saying stay the fuck away from my house was after the fact. In fact, okay, it says it doesn't have a date on it, but it's marked as 6 weeks ago.
Okay. All right. Well, that's more recent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, the other thing is to anyone who's saying, well, don't you feel safe? There's such a police presence in your neighborhood. And again, what is the police's track record in any major city with that community? It's not great. I'm sorry. I mean, you can quote all the numbers you want or whatever, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're talking about a very small percentage of the population that has had a lot of attention and a lot of negativity put towards them. Okay. And I mean, let's just count every trans woman of color whose death has never been investigated, whose death has never been seen justice or been avenged. It's somewhere between apathy and outright intimidation and assault. So
I mean, the very beginning of the LGBT rights movement started with the Stonewall riots against police.
Exactly. And I mean, the police, let's be fair, there are individuals in the profession today that are not like the guys that were patrolling in New York in the 1960s, 1970s. But there are also your white supremacists and your fascists and whatnot. And yeah, you're going to get those in every profession, but there are groups, and I don't mean groups like Antifa. I mean actual groups, Street Percenters, Oath Keepers, the KKK, etc., that have gone out of their way to infiltrate law enforcement and to recruit people into the FBI and police departments, etc. This is well known.
Oh yeah.
So, you might think that things have changed, but if you go to strike up small talk with somebody, or you think you're going to build a bridge without being aware of why that gap is there, A for effort, I guess, but B- for results.
And this is not the only instance just within the last year of there being incidences of corruption within the Forest Grove Police Department. In October 2020 alone, 2 incidents happened. Both were done by Officer Stephen Teets.
And is this the officer that snapped your picture?
No.
Okay.
Who, according to what I've read in the news reports, on October 8th, Stephen Teets had gone to an incident with a man who was in a mental health crisis and ended up tasing that guy. And he ended up, he stopped breathing and he was rushed to the hospital, but he died the next day. And
I remember reading about that. So this is the same department. Wow.
Yeah. In the official police report, apparently they say that they only fired their taser once and that, it was in the back or something like that. But apparently both a forensic expert as well as the hospital staff noted that there were taser marks on the man's chest, which the vendor for these tasers specifically states against tasing people in the chest for risk of cardiac arrest.
Right.
And then on Halloween, that same officer, Stephen Teets, while off duty and while in a drunken stupor, went up to a family's house who had a Black Lives Matter flag displayed at the top of their garage. And apparently he was like beating or like punching it or throwing something at it. I don't exactly know the full details of it because I wasn't there,
Right.
But yeah, and ended up, harassing this family for having that flag. And so 1 or 2 other officers came and just gave him a ride home. And the officer who decided to just give him a ride home ended up being arrested and charged for official misconduct.
Oh, are they the idea being that he should have at least made an arrest or cited him in some way?
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Again, I don't know the full details on that because, I wasn't involved in it, and, I've only just, seen it in bits of the news, and yeah.
But again, this is an abuse of power, and if I went across the street and took my my bill hook back here to my neighbor's Trump flag, you better believe there would be consequences for that.
Oh yeah.
If I went up and just punched a Nazi or something, I'm guessing there'd be consequences, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, here's a guy harassing a family, and if that family comes out and confronts him, doesn't matter that they don't know he's a cop. That doesn't fix it. If there's a violent confrontation, now they've assaulted.
They didn't know he was a cop until after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, abuse of power. It's very simple. And so it sounds like this department has rather a few bad apples spoiling the bunch, which is everyone always says a few bad apples and forgets the second half of that statement.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess one of the things in terms of corruption, I'm kind of curious, how did this story leak? Who actually told the press that the system was let's go back to your picture being run through the facial recognition system, basically on a fishing expedition. If people like to watch Law and Order and need it spelled out in TV terms, it's a fishing expedition to try to see if you did something, even though you weren't doing anything at the time. Who leaked the story to the press? How did the press find out about this?
That much I don't know. I was able to get in touch with the reporter, Nick Budnick, and I can read the article. I mean, it's a bit lengthy because it speaks about more than just the facial recognition incident,
right?
And I feel like gives a clearer window into the corruption of the Forest Grove Police Department.
What's the title of that? If someone wants to Google it.
It is County Forest Grove Detective Misused Facial Recognition Program. And this was published on May 19th, 2021, which was 3 days ago. Today is the 22nd. Tomorrow is the 23rd and is my 34th birthday.
A happy birthday. And that can be found on pamplinpress.com, I believe it was.
Pamplinmedia.com, as well as there's a few outlets, but Pamplin Media is like the home.
People will be able to find it there, find it through Google. And the fallout from all this, which is again, and I'm putting this in this order here for the Law and Order people who still think you're in the wrong. There was fallout from this because now anybody who thinks, oh, this was a great tool for law enforcement, this was a great tool to find criminals with, maybe it is, but
no, it's just as unreliable and prone to bias as the cops that use it are.
Well, fair enough, but they're not allowed to use it anymore. As I understand it, the company that was contracted to run this system has basically said, nope, too bad, you guys abused it, and that's not how we want it used.
Yeah. Here, I'll read a bit of the I'll read an excerpt, I guess, from the article.
Okay.
So, on June 2nd, 1 week after the George Floyd killing in Minneapolis, roughly 300 people gathered at the Highway 8 flagpole in Forest Grove for a peaceful demonstration. At the event, according to records released under a public records request, Darren Pomeroy, a Forest Grove police detective, took a photo of a person with long yellow hair who was wearing pink sunglasses. Over their shoulder, they carried a pink and blue flag labeled Anti-Fascist Action. And at the time, my hair was, yellow. It was I had dyed it green earlier that year, and it had already faded by that time. And as I was speaking to the reporter, he said that, the picture was very partial, so he didn't see that it was a rainbow and trans pride flag. And he didn't want to make assumptions, and, he was, looking out for, security, didn't post the picture or anything.
Right.
Anyway, moving forward, at 5:49 p.m. that day, Pomeroy ran the photo through a facial recognition system operated by the Washington County Sheriff's Office to allow computer-assisted searches of mugshots taken during jail bookings. The sheriff's policy governing use of the program explicitly notes that it cannot be used for mass surveillance or to monitor people based solely on political activity. It states that among the acceptable uses of the technology is when an officer has reasonable suspicion that the person has committed a crime. On his form submitted to run the photo, Pomeroy indicated he did have reasonable suspicion, writing suspicion as the justification. But the next day, Chief Deputy Sheriff John Coates sent an incident memo to Chief Ryman stating that sheriff staff that morning had audited the system and immediately flagged Pomeroy's use of the system as improper. Using images of protesters is against policy, Koch wrote, adding that in a typo-ridden remarks to dispatch about running the photo. Pomeroy wrote, documenting possible Antifa member. Added Koch, no indication of a criminal nexus was noted in the incident, and the only other comment by the officer was, subject was hold a flag, stating anti-fascist action. Koch explained that Forest Grove would be not allowed to use the program again unless the department conducted a training for officers. Since there was not a criminal nexus for the search, we are temporarily revoking Forest Grove Police's access to the Washington County Sheriff's Office PSWEB facial recognition program, Koch wrote. This first revocation will be for 90 days. At the end of the 90 days, if Forest Grove PD can provide records that all employees with access have been trained in policy and law, access to the program can be restored. 1 week later, Amazon, the program vendor, issued an announcement that it would no longer be selling the system used by departments like Washington County. Amazon's decision prompted Sheriff Pat Garrett to shut down Washington County's program altogether.
Wow. And all because of the actions of one bad apple. So if anyone's looking for the shred of optimism here, every now and then the system works. but I mean, again, this is the result. This is a consequence of somebody abusing their authority. And hey, let's give a little constitutional law here. If somebody says, well, you're a transgender anti-fascist person, you could go burn things. Here's the thing, that no, burning things is a crime. Being a member of a group, which Antifa is not a group. I mean, like, it's almost hilarious how often we have to say that, but let's pretend it was a group. Guess what? It's not illegal to be a member of Antifa. It's not illegal to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. It is not illegal to be a member of the mafia. It is illegal to commit crimes. Membership in a group is not a crime. In fact, it is a constitutionally guaranteed freedom. Freedom of association applies even to suspected criminal groups. Now, RICO laws do say that if one person commits a crime and there's a conspiracy, there is ways and all that. And there is, that's of dubious constitutional merit, although it has generally been held up in court. But again, Antifa wouldn't apply to RICO because it's not an organization. There is no leadership. There is no one giving out orders. You take your flag and go to that. No, it's an idea. It's an ideology at best. And again, no ideology. It is not illegal. It never was illegal. In spite of the blacklisting and everything else, it's not illegal to be a communist. It is not illegal to be a socialist. It is not illegal to be an anarchist. It is illegal to blow shit up, but it is not illegal.
Which I don't do.
But it is not illegal to be a member of a group that is, in fact, a constitutionally guaranteed freedom that we have in this country.
Eddie here, once again, just to clarify, for those constitutional scholars out there of more dubious merit, freedom of association is, in fact, guaranteed in the First Amendment.
And again, it goes back to the fact that Europe and countries in the old world before the Constitution were regularly just busting people based on the membership, whether it was the Irish Republicans or whether it was, socialists in Spain, whatever. I mean, it's just, that is not how we do things here. Like, well, according to the Constitution, according to constitutional law, but not according apparently to the Washington County Police Department, or at least they're bad apples that are spoiling the bunch.
And I should stress once again that I am not affiliated with Rose Sadie Antifa. I'm not affiliated with any actual leftist groups.
Right.
And times where I was considered to, join a club or something like that, my bold and brashness has alienated me from certain leftist activist circles because, again, I don't give a fuck. And, I act independently and optic security for me was thrown out the window as soon as I blabbed about punching Draken Sayer.
Right.
And yeah, so And so, particular activist groups and such like that, don't want me around because, I would risk, like blowing their cover or whatever. But it's.
Well, you're useful to them doing what you do. You're the tank. You're the one that's going to be out there taking the hits, and they can do what they're doing behind you, out of sight and whatnot. And so everyone has a role to play, but unfortunately, it's not always the one we pick.
Right, yeah.
So Skarrlett, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. I'm curious to see how this unfolds. Definitely let us know how it goes with the ACLU. Hey, back in the day, I used to end shows with a song. You got anything that might be relevant?
Yeah, Deloy Polizei by Geoff Berner.
Well, we're going to hear that. Thanks so much for giving me some of your time.
No problem. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
I want to thank both Jonah Barton and Skarrlett Krow for their time and coming on. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking to both of them. As always, if you have any questions or comments about anything you've heard here this evening, please feel free to email me at niceguy9418@usa.com. You can find Nice Guy Eddie's page, in my humble opinion, on YouTube. You can hit me up on Facebook at Eddie Cabot, Twitter at Nice Guy Eddie Cab, and you can also find my blog at eddiecabot.blogspot.com. We are going to go out tonight with Deloy Polizei by Geoff Berner. Once again, I said I made some pretty pointed comments about the cops earlier, and I want to be very clear where we are here on this one. Just before we leave, I want to leave you with a thought, because a lot of folks are going to tell me about good cops, and I know they're good cops. I've met good cops personally. Here's the problem. If you have, it's the one bad apple spoils the bunch, right? Or a couple bad apples spoil the bunch. If you have 10 good cops and one bad cop, and those 10 cops are not doing anything about that bad cop, what you have is 11 bad cops. And the public perception that is currently negative is not going to change until they start taking that seriously. And I don't see that yet. Again, I know that there are cops out there that are not doing horrible things to people, but if they are covering for people that do, if they're on the side of people that do, if the police unions and the police lobbies continue to push politicians to make it harder to prosecute the cops that are doing bad things, that are shooting unarmed people, that are violating civil rights, as what happened to Skarrlett, or, Fourth Amendment rights in general, that are trumping up charges, that are making bad arrests to run up overtime. Oh God, we'll do a whole show on that sometime. As long as that goes on, and it's excused by the so-called good cops, there are no good cops. And that's pretty much where we are. So I'm going to leave you with that thought tonight. And here is Deloy Polizei by Geoff Berner.
I played a lot of places and I'll play them all again. And everywhere I go I hear the same old thing again. Somebody dies in police custody. Soon there are questions from the family. At first the situation makes the lawmen look so filthy, but they investigate themselves and it turns out that they're not guilty. Hey, hey, Deloy Polizei, it means the same thing now as yesterday. Out of your houses into the streets, everybody say, fuck the police. Let's go! Ian Bush's family didn't know he was a killer when Constable Kessler picked him up for an open can of Miller. The video at the station house had somehow got erased, but the bull was there so we can know exactly what took place. The boy jumped on his back, but the cop was quick instead. He reached around and shot him right in the back of the head. Constable Kessler would not demonstrate just how this thing was done. If you think that that's impossible, then the coroner's not alone. Well, hey, hey, Deloy Polizei, it means the same thing now as yesterday. Out of your houses into the streets, everybody say, fuck the police. Dee-dee! There must be something magic down in the holding cells, 'cause there's stuff that happens there that just don't happen nowhere else. Healthy people dying from a sudden heart attack. Men who hang themselves with their hands tied behind their back. There's lots of good and brave police, it must be true, I guess. It's brave to work with a murderer sipping coffee by your desk. Well, hey, hey, Deloy Polizei, it means I say they never